right. Good afternoon, everybody. It's 4 o'clock. I'll call the Plan Commission to order. I'll call the roll here. Braden? Here. Jerry? Yep. Kim? Here. Marilyn? Here. Kevin? Here. John? Here. All right. The gang's all here. If folks could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Jerry?
Under conflicts, I will be removing myself from voting and discussion on item number 5 and 7.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of approval of the minutes, state aye.
Aye.
Any objection? Chair votes aye. Minutes are approved. All right. We have 2 public hearings this afternoon. First public hearing is regarding the proposed amendment for the boundaries of the project plan of tax increment district number 21. So this is the one on Indiana Avenue. Anyone wishing to speak on this item?
Wait, about the minutes for last week. Just real fast, super easy one. My name's Dennis Schnur, 1608 Superior Avenue. You had my name down as Denise Schnur. It's Dennis with 2 N's, no E.
All right.
At the end, that's all.
Thanks for that correction.
Okay, that's important. All right.
All right, anyone wishing to speak on the public item or district, TID district number 21?
Is there anything you want to speak about on TID district 21 you want to say?
I'm going to listen.
Okay. Dennis, you want to?
Potentially, after I hear something that might be arousing.
Okay, this is the opportunity to provide public input right now.
Okay.
So if you want to speak, now's the time to speak.
Excited for it. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Kathy, are you sure?
I'm positive. I want to listen.
All right.
And I can watch it. Is this being recorded?
Of course. We're live right now.
Then I can go home and watch it again. Then I'll have questions.
All right. Anyone else wishing to speak on TID district number 21? Going once. Final call. Anyone else wishing to be heard? Seeing none, is there a motion to close the hearing for District 21?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of closing the hearing, state aye.
Aye.
Any objection? Chair votes aye. That hearing is closed. Next is the public hearing regarding the proposed creation of tax increment district number 25, the proposed boundaries of the district and the proposed project plan. This is on the north side for the, as we all know, the former Memorial Hospital site. Anyone wishing to be heard on this? Laura, you want to come up, state your name, address, then you'll have 3 minutes.
Laura Hagan, 417 New York Avenue. From what I have read, it looks to me like the city bought the memorial site land for $163,000, and the plan is to recoup that amount and the $600,000 worth of infrastructure that they'll put in through making the area a tax incremental district. As far as I can tell, we're giving the developer the land. According to Ayler's TID 25 report, the parcel will have a baseline property valuation of $1,421,030. I mean, $421,300. So why aren't we selling the property rather than giving it away? And better yet, why not sell the lots for lots of money and make money? I don't really see the need for this project to warrant incremental financing.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to be heard? Come on up, Brian. You know the drill.
Hi, my name is Brian Kelly. I live at 2006 South 9th. So there's 2 points about this TID 25 that I sort of disagree with. First is the whole but-for clause saying that this development would not happen but for this TIF or TID. The city has been given 2 housing studies in the last few years here. There have been several code recommendations for the city to update its zoning codes and other ordinances that would spur development. So I feel like those have not been addressed. I haven't seen many of those go through, and I feel like those may cause like market rate development to actually happen without the need of TID. Second, I've heard that this development is supposed to match the surrounding area, the neighborhood. Sounds like that was the wish of the neighborhood association, and there might be some legal documents stating that. So right now, I don't think this matches the neighborhood around it. Right now, it's zoned for neighborhood residential 6, so 6 units per acre. The surrounding neighborhood is a little bit higher than that, at around 7. The proposed development is only at 3, which is more in line with suburban development, not neighborhood residential. So I feel like if there is development here, it really should match the surrounding neighborhood and be more towards that 6 units per acre. Final point, it mentions that this complies with the city's comprehensive plan. In that plan, I don't remember the exact wording, but it says that we, for infill development, should be supporting a mix of I guess living situations. I can't remember the exact wording, but these are all just one type of home. Sounds like single family home. Sounds like they're fairly expensive, but not affordable. Like they're not affordable, but the whole point is to try to get them affordable. I would say just make them market rate, make more lots available, and then let the developer sell them at market rate instead of subsidizing expensive homes. So those are the only points I have to make. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Anyone else wishing to speak? Tracy?
Hello, Tracy Brunette, 1229 North 4th Street. Thanks for the opportunity to provide community input. About TID 25, the memorial site seems to be a prime location for building. If the site is construction ready with high market demand and low availability, the need for TID intervention seems to be exaggerated. Or are we saying that almost any housing development in the city would need to come with incentives? Did the city try to advertise to developers before creating the TID? Other questions to be answered include who is the TID designated developer, and what are their qualifications to do single-family project geared to a higher income household? The need for TID subsidies in this instance also seems difficult to justify, and the proposed developer incentives seem excessive. According to the Ehlers report, the developmental incentive is $1.6 million for 21 houses, or over $76,000 per home. If we include the land value, that's over $140,000 per house in incentives. And the TID advisors believe cash awards for residential development should be restricted to a maximum of $20,000 per dwelling. We'd appreciate an opportunity to hold public discussions to outline critical issues and mitigation measures to better ensure the success of the development of the memorial site and continued success of our beautiful city.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this one?
Hello, my name is Leah Hibble at 404 Erie Avenue, and for TID 25, Ehlers assumes that each new house will have an initial property assessment of $380,952 per home. There is a market demand for more expensive homes, and in past years, MLS real estate data indicates that well-kept, updated homes priced at $450,000 and up are usually under contract within a week, which demonstrates a consistent, strong demand and extremely limited availability of such move-up homes. I believe that memorial homes should be directed to the move-up market demand for higher paid white-collar workers that are seeking homes with quality construction and higher end finishes rather than standard modest subdivision homes. This will free up lower priced housing stock, and if the homes were more expensive, the way I see it is that the city could collect more in property taxes. We recommend that you take more time to consider all options that would best utilize this space. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to be heard?
Sure. All right. Okay, again, Dennis Schnur, 1608 Superior Avenue. This part of town, I know this part of town well. I know that everybody on this part of town takes care of their properties. And I'd hate for it to all just get diluted by cheapening the process. I think that I love the idea of conformity, keeping the density as it is. Don't cheapen it with some of these real modern materials. I think that if we can actually use like a bountiful approach of architecture and style of yesteryear, so that we can make it look like you're actually revitalizing the area, not diluting it with something new. Because I really do feel like everybody in this area of town cares. They try more than others in town.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to be heard? Going once, going twice. Last call. Anyone else wishing to be heard? Seeing none.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of closing the hearing, state aye. Aye. Any opposed? Chair votes aye. The hearing is closed. All right, next, items for discussion and possible action, consideration and possible action regarding a resolution approving an amendment for the project plan and boundaries of Tax Increment District 21. Kayla, take it away.
Let me just get plugged in here. Thank you for having me. My name is Kayla Thorpe. I'm Associate Municipal Advisor with Ellers, and with me today is my colleague Phil Cosson, and we both do work on behalf of the city. And so for today, for the TID 21 project plan and boundary amendment and the creation of TID 25, I'm going to first start with a little bit of TID basics and TID mechanics just to get a level playing field so we're all of understanding of what we're talking about, how the financing mechanism work, and then I'll dive into TIDs 21 and 25. What is tax increment financing? Two common nomenclatures used, TIF and TID. Financing is the mechanism to pay for projects and incentives of the such, and the district is the physical boundaries of the parcels contained within the district. And so the district generates the increment revenue, which then finances the project, and that's where you get TIF from. TIF is a very powerful economic development tool and one of the only ones available to municipalities in the state of Wisconsin, and allows the municipality to capture the incremental value, which is the value over and beyond the base value of the district, and the revenue related with that to pay for projects that improve, that benefit and improve the district as a whole. The intent is to require a cost participation from all of the overlying taxing jurisdictions. Earlier today at 2 p.m., the Joint Review Board met, which is a member of each of the overlying taxing jurisdictions, so the county, the school district, the city, and the technical college, to review these project plans. And from a procedural requirement, they are then the end approval after the Common Council should take action. And so requires that buy-in from all of those taxing jurisdictions as it affects all of the taxing jurisdictions as a whole. It really helps address the lack of other incentives or financial resources that the city could deploy. Given the strict constraints of levy limit laws in the state of Wisconsin, there's really no other way to promote on a financial basis economic development within a municipality. And really promotes cooperation between the public and private sectors to ensure that projects are carried out in an orderly basis in conformance with the things like the city's master plan, code, and all of those things. How tax incremental financing works is that the data creation, and the data creation is notified as the council approval day, the baseline property value is frozen, meaning whatever the value is of that day, taxes collected on that base property value are distributed to the overlying taxing jurisdictions, just as they would be today. Any new value over and beyond the base value as of creation day is called the increment. The taxes generated on that increment is what is then put back into the district to pay for property costs. And it's important to note that that increment is calculated on an equalized basis and not an assessed basis. So you may notice the difference of what some of the tax rates we're using in our analysis versus what you would see on your property tax bill. Your property tax bill has a rate that is the assessed value, and TIF financing works on an equalized value basis. So it's an equal playing field for every municipality in the state. We're working off the same kind of assumptions. After the district's closed and paid up for all its project costs, all of the value comes back online, and all of the taxing jurisdictions then have their fair share of taxes on that new value, and it's distributed as it would have been all along. Just kind of giving you an understanding again on how the distribution of property taxes work. It's really, we're talking about the increment value that will be put in to the district to pay for those project costs based on the overlying taxing jurisdictions, their mill rates on the equalized basis, like I said. But it really is important to note that that baseline value that is established at the creation date, the taxing jurisdictions are still receiving their equal share of that. How do TIDs impact property taxes and levies? TID project costs, as outlined in any of the project plans, are eligible expenses to be reimbursed by that increment tax generation. No district outside, or no parcels outside of the district pay into the district as terms of their increment value, and so there's no impact on the general property taxes from a project cost standpoint. There is a manner in which outside property taxpayers could pay for property taxes related to TID development. And this comes down to the utilization of the net new construction factor as part of the city's property tax levy. The only way municipalities in the entire state of Wisconsin can build their base levy, meaning their baseline property tax levy that they start with annually before any exemptions are taken into account, is to utilize net new construction. Currently, under Wisconsin state law, municipalities can utilize their net new construction percentage to build their base levy for values that are both in the TID and out of the TID. And so at that point in time, it's a council and staff decision to how much of the net new construction percentage to utilize, and if they're going to utilize any net new construction related to TID development. And so we get a lot of questions related to TID development, increasing property taxes for the general property taxpayer. While it's categorically misunderstood, the only way that happens is if the municipality utilizes the full net new construction percentage. We also get a lot of questions and feedback regarding the tax impacts on school districts and how the school funding formula works. And so I'm going to read verbatim from the Wisconsin DOR Equalization Bureau as to how the school funding formula works and how it's impacted by tax base. The formula operates under the principle of equal tax rate for equal per pupil expenditures. In pure form, this means that a school district's property tax rate does not depend on the property tax base of the district, but on the level of expenditures. The rate at which school costs are aided through the formula is determined by comparing a school district's per pupil tax base to the state's guaranteed tax base. Equalization aid is provided to make up the difference between the district's actual tax base and the state guaranteed tax base. Thus, there is an inverse relationship between the equalization aid and property valuations. Those districts with low per pupil property valuations receive a larger share of their costs through the equalization formula than districts with higher per pupil property valuations. And so we just kind of wanted to do a mass information kind of as to how the per pupil calculation for state aid to school districts is not dependent on the property tax base. I'm now going to dive into TID 21, the project plan and boundary amendment. We were here about the same time last year for the creation of TID 21, which was created to pay for the cost of new public infrastructure, site remediation and cleanup and demolition and land acquisition within the defined area. Development incentives and other project costs were defined as eligible project expenses needed to facilitate the rehabilitation of parcels identified within the district and essentially pay for those costs as well. And then there were small retail and commercial purposes for the creation of the district. The amendment before you today is to do two things. One is to add parcels to the district as allowed under statute 66-1105-4H2. Project plan This is one of the first of 4 permitted project plan amendments that any TID district in the state can go through. And then we're also expanding the project cost to include property acquisitions related to a territory acquisition for the project. And the main driver of this project is that the city intends to partner with the Kohler Foundation and the John Michael Kohler Arts Center to create a public arts and creation hub within the area to be added to the district. This district is a complete the properties being added to this district is a complete overlay of TID 17's parcels, not the whole district of TID 17, but all of the parcels being added to 21 are already in TID 17. And so how the mechanism for kind of distributing the increment taxes on that is that the base values as of the creation of TID 17 are still locked as the base value, and that is distributed to the overlying taxing jurisdictions. The increment collected from the creation date of TID 17 until the adoption of the TID 21 amendment, that increment will still be paid into TID 17 to pay for TID 17 project costs. Any increment generated after the adoption of the TID 21 amendment to the closure of TID 21 will be put into TID 21 to pay for TID 21 project costs. So 3 kind of buckets of money that these parcels, the taxes generated on those parcels will go to fund. The reason why this project is not being included in TID 17 is at this time TID 17, it does not have the resources to facilitate the property acquisition costs. When we create TIDs in the state of Wisconsin, we must satisfy a 12% test. No municipality within the state can have more than 12% of its equalized value contained in a TID district, and so this is just a mechanism to verify that we've tested the values as of 1/1/24. Being that this is an overlay, meaning an overlay district, we subtract the value contained within TID already, so that's why you kind of see the in and out of the 13.3 million. And in satisfying that test, we get to about 3.22%, leaving a residual capacity of about $414 million of value that the city would still have the ability to place into a TID. The map on this slide gives you an understanding of the entire boundaries of TID 21, which is a pretty significant area, and then the area outlined in orange or pink is what is being added. The breakout of this map, along with all of the appendices, are included in the entire project plan. And like I've mentioned, the purpose of this amendment is to facilitate the creation of the arts, facilitate the purchase and creation of the Arts and Creation Hub in partnership with the Kohler Foundation and the Kohler Arts Center. The only costs we're adding are $895,000 for property acquisition costs. We like to give a snapshot of the detailed project list as of what was included in the original project plan, what has been spent to date, and what we're adding. So this detailed project list, which is also included in your project plan, outlines what was in the original project plan was about $181 million in total project costs. To date, the city has spent just over $5.6 million of projects or of costs related to those, mostly in the South Point land area. And we are adding that $895,000. There's a small portion of the Penn Street Avenue Bridge, which is a non-project cost, and what that means is that that portion will be paid for outside of the district, and it benefits parcels outside of the district, and so it's not included in a eligible project cost. At this point in time, we're estimating that the district has about $176 million still to be spent to execute the projects in both the original project plan and this amendment. Something important to point out too is the approval of the project plan does not approve these projects specifically or the dollar amounts related with these projects. It provides the framework to facilitate the payment of these projects, basically naming them as eligible, but all of the projects and all of the agreements would still have to go through normal city approvals, whether it's Plan Commission and the council or whether it's directly to council. This process does not skirt those other processes. It just provides a mechanism to finance some of these projects. Also, just wanted to give you a review of the development assumptions. The Arts Center will be a tax-exempt parcel, and so we are not accounting for any value added for it. It is basically to facilitate just the acquisition of the property, but really restating the original development assumptions of $328 million, of which have remained unchanged from the original project plan, namely because 2024 certified values will be released on August 15th, and then we'll update our development assumptions with the construction that actually happened in 2024. using the value added in the years that it is to be added. And I think it's important to point out that there's a 2-year lag between construction and when revenue is received from the construction. So anything that is constructed in 2025 will be valued as of 1/1/26 for revenue collection as of 1/1/27. So there's a common misconception of I see construction today, that means they're paying taxes on that next year. There's just that 2-year lag of the valuation period and when taxes are collected. And so we are showing that value of about 29.5 that was anticipated to be constructed in 2024 will start to come online for taxes in 2026. So this district currently has no incoming cash flow because of that 2-year lag. The current equalized tax rate of the city is $15.88, and we've also accounted for a small economic appreciation factor, just the natural appreciation in values of properties over time without any specific development occurring on those parcels. So over the 27 years useful life of the district, we're showing about $157 million of increment tax revenue. And then to give you a snapshot of the entire cash flow, the only thing that has changed is that we've built in that $895,000 to be a part of the city's already existing 2025 borrowing. Again, that does not marry the city to borrow for this. It is just a kind of a placeholder until the city council makes a decision on whether to borrow for that or to advance those from other funds. And we are showing that the district can meet all of its obligations in its useful life and terminate in 2052. So this kind of just is a summary of what we just talked about. The property acquisition costs could be part of the 2025 borrowing. Estimated tax increment collection over $157 million over the next 26 years. And this district could close in 2052 with how it stands today. But like I mentioned earlier, there are still 3 project plan amendments that the city could utilize if anything happens to come forward that is not already contained in the project. So that is all I have for TID 21, if there's any questions from the commission.
Questions from commission members regarding TID number 21? Questions, motions? Kim?
With the $895,000 property acquisition for the Kohler, John Michael Kohler and Art Foundation, I'm not saying that correctly.
Kohler Foundation and the John Michael Kohler Arts Center.
Thank you. Is that property picked out? Is it multiple properties? Is that something we can ask?
I think Administrator Bradley can best answer that question.
The city does have property under contract. We're waiting for closure depending on the outcome of this. So it's an existing vacant property and we're working with the building owner. So we do have a contract that has not been approved, so it's not public at this point. But this process will dictate whether we move forward or not.
Does that help? Follow-up, Kim?
So it's one piece of property within the TID itself, this TID?
The entirety of the property that we're looking at, yes. There are several parcels that are a part of that acquisition, but one main large property and then 3 subordinate properties that would go with it.
It is part of Appendix W in your packet. That's the territory that's being added to the project or to the district to facilitate this project.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. John, were you going to push the button? Did you have a question?
No, I'm good there.
Okay. Other questions? Motions?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Moved and second. Final thoughts? Braden?
I wasn't aware that this was a involved Kohler company. It's a separate organization, but I am employed by a Kohler company, so I'm going to abstain from this as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, seeing no more discussion, all those in favor of approval state aye.
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 Any objections? Chair votes aye. Any abstentions?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Next one, item 8, consideration and possible action of resolutions establishing the boundaries and improving the project plan for tax increment district 25. Kayla?
As we discussed already, the tax increment district number 5 is the proposed rehabilitation of what we know as the Aurora Hospital site. And this is a proposed rehab and conservation district, which allows a 27-year allowable life. The purpose of the district is to pay for the cost of new public infrastructure, land acquisition, and development incentives to facilitate this development. And the project is 21 single-family homes with approximately 1/4 to 1/3 acre size lots. We also need to do a 12% test on this, and they are conducted independently regardless if TIF districts are being created or amended at the same time. So this looks a little different as the end values than the last one, but this test alone puts the city at 3.25% of the 12% value, with a remaining residual capacity of $412 million for the city to be able to be placed within a TID district. The detailed project list, as outlined in the project plan, have site acquisition reimbursements to the city of $163,000, excuse me, and that is be able recouped under statutes for kind of a land write-down. The city can recoup any costs under that $163,000 mark as far as selling the parcel. Even if they sold it for $1, they'd still be able to recoup the costs they paid for it from the district. Public infrastructure costs, which are related to the roads and water and sewer infrastructure on the two main streets surrounding this district, and about $600,000. One thing I forgot to mention during Plan Commission that I'll mention now is this is a portion of the project attributed to the TID. This is not the entire project cost. The entire project costs will be sub-allocated to the utilities and the general fund related to those portions that benefit directly parcels outside of the district. Development incentives in the amount of $1.6 million, repayment of an advance of $203,000, interest on long-term debt of $375,063, financing costs of $10,000, and ongoing planning and administration of $470,000. Again, reiterating that the approval of the TID project plan and its boundaries do not authorize these projects. These projects would still have to go through the normal approval process as outlined in the city's practices. Just makes these projects a TID eligible expense. A number of development assumptions we're working with is the build-out schedule of 5 homes in 2025, 8 in 2026, and 8 in 2027, with a total value of $8 million. We took a conservative estimate of $400,000 per single-family home, and the city intends to utilize these incentives to facilitate the development of starter home type homes, and that there could be private sales of lots and custom home constructions that will help balance out our assumptions, or the assumptions that were provided to us, and could fuel increment generation to pay for the incentives and the other project costs. I'll kind of talk about this now. And then going back to that kind of 2-year lag of when these homes would be constructed to when the revenue would start to come in, is that homes constructed in 2025 will be valued as a 1/126 and have revenue collection of 1/127. That is a direct correlation to the payout of any incentive, is that the development incentives are calculated on a pay-go basis, meaning pay as you go, and the developer will only seek, or can only seek and get reimbursement on the incentive when the value is generated and online. And so there's no incentive to be planned to be paid until after 2027, provided that something is built in 2025. And so I'll walk through that in the cash flow, but I just wanted to kind of clear that up, is that 1, there's no upfront cash incentives provided for in the project plan, and 2, the developer does not receive any incentive until they start to put value online. So adding $8 million of incremental value over 27 years will result in about $3.2 million of tax increment generation. And then putting that into the cash flow and understanding how this is, as I mentioned, the city could anticipate or can finance the public infrastructure portion of the project as part of their 2025 regular borrowing. Again, that's a policy decision that the council will make at that point in time. We've showed it here as being borrowed, and then an amortization schedule of 20 years to repay that amount. And the incentive is calculated after debt service and after planning administration fees. So all of the city's costs are recouped before anything is available to be paid as a development incentive to the developer. And so we're showing that if this construction schedule stays on as it currently is planned and the values hold at what we're anticipating they be held at, the first incentive payment would be not paid until 2028. And would be calculated on the percentage of increment available after debt service and after planning and administrative costs. We're showing the repayment of the advance from other funds to be repaid in the down years of the district, and that the district could recoup all of its costs and pay all of its project costs within the 27-year useful life and terminate in 2053. As was mentioned earlier, the city did conduct a housing study that was presented to council in June of 2024 and demonstrates the need and demand of increased housing by 1,300 to 2,700 units between now and 2032. Additionally, factors outside of that specific study are affecting housing demand in Sheboygan County as a whole. Major employers within this region are expanding and adding operations, adding jobs, and the demand for those starter type homes and the value associated with those starter homes are in high demand. In talking about the development and the development incentives related to this, the development agreement has not been finalized, has not been presented to council yet, but some standard provisions that the city includes in the development agreements are shortfall payments, letters of credit, special assessments, and personal guarantees, meaning that if value is delayed and there's not enough increment to pay debt service and development incentives, the developer's making up that shortfall based off of the approved construction schedule. If for some reason the value of the homes assessed less than what we've planned, the developer is still paying taxes on the dollar amount outlined and making up that payment. If the values are higher, then they pay the taxes on the higher amount. The method of financing and what the percentage of the pay-go incentive and how much it will be are still under negotiation and will be presented to the city council when appropriate for approval. And again, the project plan is just an illustration of how the district could pay for all of the incentives and the project costs. It does not authorize an incentive as a project cost. And so just kind of rounding up is the property acquisition cost could be part of the city's 2025 borrowing. An incremental value of $8 million is anticipated to generate $3.28 million over the life of the district. Development incentives are structured on a pay-go basis. There is no upfront cash incentive to be planned. One thing about the dollar value of the parcel, right now the parcel is tax exempt and has always been tax exempt as the hospital. So there's no property tax generation happening on that parcel as it stands. The parcel will also be subdivided and therefore will affect the overall valuation of what the land is, and it would be anticipated that the subdividing for residential purposes would increase the overall valuation of the property. And the cash flow model is an illustration of how projects could be funded and with a projected closure date of 2053. Happy to answer any questions on TID 25.
All right, thanks, Kayla. Questions from Planning Commission members? John?
I would just like to ask Casey a question real quick before I comment on anything else. I am the alderman for the 2nd District, which this site is part of that. I am a neighbor approximately 2 blocks away from that. When I look up the definition of conflict of interest, I do not believe I have one. But before I comment on this, I would just like to ask the city administrator if he sees anything that I would have a conflict with. I'm not going to be professionally or financially enhanced by whatever happens with this. So, I mean, I don't think I have any kind of conflict. So I would just like to clarify that.
No, you're representing your constituents. You have no financial interest, and any benefit that you would receive would be the same as all your neighbors. So I don't see any form of interest. You have no relationship to any potential developer that's looking at this. So I don't think you have any conflict to worry about there.
Thank you.
Yes.
Then I would like, I do have a question. If you go back to the increment projection, you've got the tax rate all the way through of all the 27 years at the same rate.
Correct.
I mean, you've got to put some number in there to come up with something, but that's not a realistic expectation. I mean, it's going to go up most likely.
So we're actually seeing equalized tax rates decline across the state. What is happening is that value that is coming online is significant, whether it be through economic appreciation, because property values have increased significantly, especially since COVID, the development of new properties, but the ability for the municipality to levy is pretty stagnant. So we're seeing value go up, property tax levies stay stagnant, therefore the tax rate drops. Okay. And that's on an assessed and an equalized basis. And so we traditionally in our models will keep a flat tax rate throughout the entire time and not account for any economic appreciation. So therefore, as properties naturally appreciate economically, which we know will happen, and the tax rate declines, in hypothetical situations, those two should balance out. It is what we do at our standard practice and feedback based off of our clients, but is also the most realistic kind of anticipation of what could possibly happen over the next 27 years is based off of the history we know. Tax rates are declining, property valuations are increasing.
Okay, thank you. And I just have one. Yep. I would just like to reply to what Brian mentioned, that the density isn't what he would like to see for the surrounding neighborhood. I live on the 2500 block, or the 2600 block of 3rd Street. The 2500 block of 3rd Street only has 2 homes on that whole block. There's lots are huge. My house is a double lot. It's a huge lot. I'm literally 2 blocks away, and there's only one other house to the south of me that, you know, and we're bisected by an alley. But the lots are, depending upon in that Memorial neighborhood, there are some very, very big lots. And I went over this with Administrator Casey Bradley earlier this afternoon. It does fit the neighborhood if you take an average of all the homes in the neighborhood. So it does meet that definition, and we are abiding by the agreement with the Memorial neighborhood and Aurora that the site would be developed in this fashion. So I just wanted to put that out there as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Other discussion on this item? Braden?
I'm along the same lines there, but slightly different take in that I agree that it does meet that broad definition. I talked with Brian earlier this week and pulled some of the data myself as well to do my homework on it. So the existing block that it's on also has other homes there. As Brian kind of pointed out, this is going to be around half the density of that because there are duplexes there, but also if you just look at the number of buildings, there's going to be around half. To me, if we're going to be building out more housing in this area, we're going to make it in the design of the existing neighborhood. I don't see why we wouldn't build more housing given the need for housing that we just highlighted in this report as well. On top of that, value per acre wise, so thinking about how productive we're being with our use of land, the current existing blocks, the portion just south of this, leading up to Bell between 6th and 7th Street, now this is assessed value, not equalized value. I don't have the equalized data. It's $1.3 million per acre. This is a little bit less than that. So I don't understand why we'd do less housing than we possibly could when we have a housing shortage, when more housing would be consistent with the style of the neighborhood. That's kind of my open question on this, is why we wouldn't be doing more housing.
Administrator Bradley?
Yes, so this property is a little unique in that a part of a settlement took place between the city, Aurora, and the neighborhood association. And a part of that lawsuit, the settlement was that there was conditions on how the hospital would be torn down. Aurora had to keep the neighborhood association involved, and they had to give updates annually and I believe quarterly. So they honored that all the way through. the developer agreed as a part of the settlement with the city and with the neighborhood association was that whatever was put back there would be essentially single-family homes that mimic the existing neighborhood. And what we run into is when we're looking at that, you've got some that have, 40-foot wide properties, and then you have others that are 80 and 90-foot properties. So trying to find that average, and everybody's going to have a different opinion because you look at 6th Street. Those are all one type of housing. You look at 7th Street, it's all one type of housing, and then you go a block away and it's completely different. So we're trying to find that happy medium. At the end of the day, this is just the TIF discussion, and we'll be back. So at every iteration of this, when they come back for the plat, all of that is still going to come back through Plan Commission, so you guys can definitely weigh in more when you have an opportunity to kind of see, because there are going to be some issues there that we've run into. We've got a easement that runs right through the dead center of 2 lots, and potentially could impact a 3rd lot. So we need to try to figure that out. So engineering is working with the developer on, what does that solution look like. So we're still a long ways from having anything formally approved, but we're from the staff level just looking at trying to honor that as best as possible, and then ultimately, whatever Plan Commission and Council finds is acceptable, we'll have to run through the neighborhood association to make sure they're comfortable with that. There's a deed restriction on the deed. So essentially, Aurora spent 2 years trying to market this and actually hired a firm to market this to developers to come in and build single-family homes, and they got no interest whatsoever. So the cities, we worked with one developer. They essentially got to the development agreement stage and ultimately walked away. Too small of a project, profit margins aren't there that they wanted to see. So now we're with another developer. We're in the process of negotiating, and it looks as if we're going to be able to come to an agreement for council's consideration on a development agreement. So that's why we're here today, but we're a long way from anything being approved and moving forward for actual development.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Other questions from commission members? Motions?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and second. Final discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state aye. Aye. Any objections? Chair votes aye. That is approved. All right, next meeting is April 15th. We've exhausted our agenda. What is the pleasure of the commission?
Move to close, or move to adjourn, I'm sorry.
Yes, let's do that.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of adjournment state aye. Aye. We're adjourned at 4:47. Thanks, everybody.